Hey, it's Tuesday, and today I've decided to read Pinocchio, a Walt Disney classic. And another Walt Disney classic is Mickey Mouse. So hi, I'm MC Rad.
And hi, I'm Mickey Mouse.
And today we'll be reading Pinocchio.
Walt Disney's Pinocchio, adapted by Eugene Bradley Coco. Illustrated by Ron Diaz. Holy crap, there's a lot of words. One night, long, long ago, the evening star shone down across the dark sky. Its beams formed a shimmering pathway to a tiny village, whose humble little homes lay deep in sleep. Only one house still had a light burning in the window, and that was the wood shop of Geppetto, the kind old wood carver. He was busy carving a puppet out of wood. At last he finished, cried Geppetto, as he held the wood boy high.
Let's start over.
At last he's finished, cried Geppetto, as he held the wooden boy high in the air. The only thing left to do now, said Geppetto to the puppet, is give you a name. Let's see, I shall call you Pinocchio. What a grand name for such a handsome boy, Jiminy Cricket said with a chirp. But Geppetto's happiness soon faded, for deep in his heart he wished that Pinocchio were a real boy. From his bed, Geppetto looked into the sky, the night, and saw the bright evening star. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have this wish I make tonight. With all his heart, Geppetto wished that Pinocchio were a real boy. Then Geppetto drifted off to sleep. Just then, a light burst across the sky. A fairy flew straight from the evening star onto Geppetto's house. Good Geppetto, whispered the blue fairy, who you have given so much happiness to others, you deserve to have your wish come true. Then, with a wave of the wand, the blue fairy brought Pinocchio to life. Jiminy Cricket watched in amazement as Pinocchio began to walk and talk. Am I a real boy? Pinocchio asked the blue fairy. No, Pinocchio, she answered. You're a dummy. Just kidding. First, you must prove yourself to be brave, truthful, and unselfish. You must also learn to choose between right and wrong. But how will I know what is right or wrong? He asked. Your conscience will tell you, said the blue fairy. What's a conscience? Asked Pinocchio. That's the small voice that people don't always listen to, or ever listen to. Ever. Ha-ha. Jiminy Cricket answered with a chirp. Yes, said the blue fairy. She made Jiminy Cricket kneel down before her. Then she knighted him. And she dubbed him Pinocchio's official conscience. His official conscience. His official conscience. It was his job to see that Pinocchio did only what was right. Then the blue fairy vanished, because she didn't want none of this. When Geppetto awoke, he could not believe his eyes. My wish came true, he shouted. Pinocchio is alive. Although Geppetto soon realized that Pinocchio was still made of wood, it mattered little to him. I shall love you the way you are, he told Pinocchio. Then he explained that Pinocchio must go to school, like all boys. And so, that very morning, Pinocchio happily set off. Pinocchio hadn't gone very far when Gideon, a cat, and a foul fellow, a sly fox, saw him. Foul fellow thought a wooden boy with no strings. I'll bet Stromboli, the man, the puppeteer, would pay a pretty price for him. Foul fellow convinced Pinocchio that acting was life for him and sold him to Stromboli. That night, after Pinocchio had performed to rounds of applause, Stromboli locked him away in a cage. How am I ever going to get out of this horrible place? Sobbed Pinocchio. Just then a voice called out, "Don't worry, Pinocchio. I'll save you." It was Jiminy Cricket. He pushed, pulled, and shook the lock, but couldn't get Pinocchio out. Suddenly, the blue fairy appeared. Once more. "Pinocchio, why didn't you go to school?" she asked. "I was brought here by a big green monster who was going to cook me for his supper," he lied. Pinocchio's nose began to grow and grow. "You're lying, Pinocchio," said the blue fairy, "and it's plain as the nose on your face, LOL. "Please give him one more chance," pleaded Jiminy Cricket. "I'll make sure he never lies again." One more chance, that's all you have," said the blue fairy. And she set Pinocchio free. He promised never to lie again and then headed straight for school. But on the way to school, he was stopped by Foul Fellow once more. "And where are you going on this fine day?" he said with a sneer. "To school," replied Pinocchio. "Ha! School is no place for a boy like you," said Foul Fellow, laughing. "If you follow me, I'll show you a place that's more fun. Pleasure Island." "Don't go, Pinocchio," warned Jiminy Cricket, but Pinocchio did not listen.
Let's see.
And before he knew it, Foul Fellow had sold him to mean old driver of the Pleasure Island stagecoach. The coach was pulled by 6 unhappy donkeys. The coachman went from village to village, buying up all the boys he could. Isn't that illegal? Once the coach was full, he headed to the ferry bound for Pleasure Island. Pinocchio sat down beside a loudmouth boy named Lampwick. "Don't worry about a thing," Lampwick said with a chuckle. "Once we get to Pleasure Island, we won't have to listen to anyone or worry about what is right or wrong." On Pleasure Island, Pinocchio forgot about the blue fairy, forgot everything the blue fairy had told him. He fought with the other boys, smoked corncob pipes, tossed rocks through windows, and yelled and screamed with all his might. Then he followed Lampwick down Tobacco Lane to the pool hall. "This is a great place, Lampwick," shouted Pinocchio. But as Pinocchio turned to his friend, he could not believe his eyes. Lampwick had suddenly grown long ears and a tail. Lampwick had turned into a donkey. "And I'm a mouse, and he's a boy made of wood." Pinocchio felt the top of his head and looked down at his behind. He too had sprouted donkey ears and a tail. Now he knew where the coachman got his tired, sad-looking donkeys. "Come with me before it's too late," cried Jiminy Cricket, who had quietly followed Pinocchio to Pleasure Island. As fast as they could, Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket ran through the gates of Pleasure Island and jumped off a cliff into the sea. Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket swam all the way back to land and rushed to Geppetto's house. But when they arrived, Geppetto was gone. "Maybe something awful happened," cried Pinocchio. Just then, a beautiful white dove dropped a note high from the sky. "It's from Geppetto." What a coincidence. "And it said that he went to look for you, and he was swallowed by a whale named Monstro. He's alive, but he's trapped inside the whale." "I must find him," cried Pinocchio. Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket leapt into the sea to start their search. Soon they spotted Monstro and got as close as they could to the snoring whale. Suddenly, Monstro opened his eyes and mouth and gulped down a school of fish. Pinocchio was swallowed along with them. Inside the whale, Geppetto was fishing. For some reason, he felt the tug on his line and reeled it in. Pinocchio was on the other end. "My son! My son!" shouted Pinocchio. "I thought I'd never see you again." "I missed you so, father," said Pinocchio. "I've been a bad boy, and I'm sorry." "That's all right, my son," said Geppetto. "The important thing is for all of us to get out of here and to safety." "I have an idea," cried Pinocchio. "Let's build a fire. It'll make Monstro sneeze us right out." So they built a fire, and the smoke tickled Monstro's nose till he let out a huge sneeze. Pinocchio and Geppetto were sent flying out to sea on their tiny raft. But then Monstro came charging after the raft. Soon Monstro caught up with the raft and splintered it with one blow of his powerful tail. Geppetto was sinking. Never mind about me, he cried. Save yourself, my son. But Pinocchio swam back to Geppetto and helped him stay afloat. Geppetto was washed safely ashore, but Pinocchio did not fare as well. Geppetto found him lying in the water among the rocks, lifeless. Geppetto took Pinocchio home. As he wept, a soft voice said, Pinocchio, you've proved yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish. Now you will be a real boy. Pinocchio moved and blinked his eyes. He was alive, and no longer wooden, and no longer dead. Geppetto danced for joy. Jiminy Cricket was happy too. In Pinocchio, he had proof that when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true, but only once, and only in reference to puppets. That's been all for me. Have a good day, folks. Like that smash button or go to Disneyland. Please subscribe.